John had asked me to speak on something that I have learned throughout my many, many years. And so I wanted to talk to you guys tonight about the steadfastness of God. I am Kourtney Shaeffer. I guess I should have started with that. AKA Mrs. Brandon Shaeffer, my favorite title. Married to my husband for a bunch of years. I have 4 amazing, basically adult kids at this time. Do you guys need to go someplace else? Okay, because I don't want you to distract me, because that'll be annoying. I have a bonus son-in-law now that my daughter is married, and I am a Lolly, which is a cheesy grandma name, but we are Lolly and Pop. We are Lollipop, and that is my grandma name, and that little girl is the light of my life, and it has kind of just changed everything for me. I was raised in the church. I was raised in like a Christian bubble. I don't know if any of you know of Indian Hills Camp. My grandma was one of the founders there, so I grew up at camp. I lived there until I was in my teens, and then I worked there in summer camp, so I was homeschooled. So my world was a very large Christian bubble with some really amazing people, and I was very safe in that bubble. And I took my Christian bubble, I would say, for granted when I was younger. I knew who God was, but I didn't know God. I never had to really depend on him. My parents were married. I was raised with amazing people who love the Lord, and I never, at a young age, had to learn to depend on the Lord. I took for granted that he would always be near. Maybe more, I took for granted that I would always want him to be near to me because I did not know what the absence would be. I say I have 4 kids, so 4 kids. When they started going to the beach, they got old enough where we could take them and it wouldn't be like super annoying. And we'd set up on the beach we'd had a specific umbrella, and they were allowed to go to the water, and then we had to turn around and okay, look for mom, I'm right here. We have this color umbrella. I have this. I would give them landmarks, right? So they could go out to the water, they could kind of play a little bit, but they had to always look at me. As they got older, they would start going farther and farther out, and I'd have to glare at them, which they couldn't see because it's in the sun, and no one ever knew, but I had to give them really strong boundaries. They had to kind of always look back to find me on the shore and come back or check in. As they got older and would go off on boogie boards, I made them come back and check in every now and then. When we were out in public, when your kids are young, you're holding onto their hands so that everybody's closer. They had to, when you're putting one in the car, you have them hold on to a leg so they don't run off. But as you gain independence as a kid, and as your kids get older and you start to trust them and they make wiser choices, you can let them kind of roam out a little farther from you, right? You have a little bit of freedom, which is kind of like the Lord. As my kids' confidence grew, their dependence on me changed. When you're little, your dependence on your parents or whoever your caregiver is. The same with the Lord. When we're new Christians, our dependence is on him. We go to him because we have so many questions. We want to, dive into Scripture. We have a desire to be independent as we grow up, but we still need a home. So my kids are almost all out of the house, and my counter, dining room table and counter, is where life happens in my home. My kids are raised and out and home, but when everybody's back on the same side of the planet and together, we spend so much time because that is reassuring to them. They get to tell stories, or they get to share where they're at in life, and we get to encourage one another. We get to make fun of one another. We get to laugh at failures and rejoice in everything else going on. So that's still home to them. And that kitchen has been, we've been in the same house since my youngest, Kylie, who's a senior, she spoke 2 weeks ago, since she was born. That's the only home she ever knew. She was trying to tell my husband the other day to change the lamps in our living room, and oh, wow. And he was like, no. And she's like, those same lamps have been there for 20 years. 19 years or whatever. And it's weird to think they've just been a fixture. They're the steadfastness in our living room. You can always see them when you come in. And I think our relationship with the Lord can be very same. My confidence in myself, my ability to make my own decisions grew. And I realized I didn't need the Lord as much as I thought I did in those. But he was always and has always been steadfast in my life. He was always waiting. He was always there. He's always been patient, and he's always been kind. If we define steadfastness, it is having a firm loyalty or a consistent and unswerving dedication to something or someone. It is fixed, it is unchanging, it is solidly established. So steadfastness That was one of those words. Steadfastness is immovable, irrefutable, unchangeable, unalterable, and is completely and utterly dependable. We don't know a lot of people in our world that are like that. You don't have, your parents can be pretty reliable. You may have friends, but none of us really know people like that. And if we do, it's very few people that we know we can depend on and count on every single day. Even as a mom, I think I'm a pretty dependable mom. I think I'm a pretty good mom. And I have a temper, right? Or I have a bad day, right? And so I change how I treat my kids based on that, right? Like I have a rough day at work and I come home, I might be grumpy or edgy or whatever. The Lord is never like that. He is always the same. He is never changing. Some of you people may not have anybody like that in your life. You can't say there has been a consistent person in my life. You can't say I can always turn to this person. That may be something that's really foreign to you. So to hear that the Lord is steadfast is hard for you to kind of trust or even understand what I mean by that. I have a picture just by himself. Okay, this is Riggs. This is my donkey. I love animals. They are like, you can learn every lesson you need to know. Yes. Oh, I have 5 minutes. This is Riggs. So this is the day I got Riggs. Riggs is a BLM donkey, not Black Lives Matter, but Bureau of Land Management. You adopt them from the government because they are running wild all over the states. They are getting in car accidents. They don't drive. They cause car accidents and they cause havoc. If you ever go to the river, you see a lot of these guys running out there. So he is a little bit over a year. This is the first day I got him. It took an hour and a half to get this picture because he did not trust anybody. He had been wild out with all these people. Yeah, do you actually have a question? Yeah. Riggs, R-I-G-G-S. I have no idea. That's his name. Thank you. He's pretty rad. So it took me like an hour to get him in there. Then I get him home, and I cannot get him out because I'm new to him, and he only knows people that have captured him in the wild, taken him to a big pen, they vaccinate him, they do their feet, they do a bunch of stuff to them, they brand them. He's got a big brand on his neck, and then they sell him to like a home. So it takes me forever to get him in there. Then I get him home, and I have to get him in the corral with the other horses, and he is not trusting me. He doesn't like anybody. And you can show the next picture. So this is his corral. He's my favorite. I love my children, but I really love my animals too. But so if you can see, that's a really big pasture that he's in, and that's a small little corral I had to put him in. I had to give him kind of boundaries so that he knew where home was, he knew where his food was, he knew where his water, and he knew that I would come to him twice, 3 times, 4 times. I would spend a lot of time with him because he got to know me and he got to trust me. He knew when I came I was going to bring carrots, I was going to bring apples. He liked his carrots to be shredded. So I would shred the carrots. I have a cow, Trinka, who's about to have a baby, and she will only eat shredded carrots, so it's kind of like a popular delicacy. But I had to get him to trust me. I had to get him to know that I was always going to come to his rescue because everything he knew about humans was dangerous, was mean, was aggressive. So this was just that same day, and I kept him in that really small pen for quite some time until he got to trust me. Oh my gosh. Okay, next, this is my last one. This is Gus Gus. There's Trink in the background. Gus Gus is the miniature horse. That's Kylie's miniature horse. Those 2 little stinkers, one night, really, really late at night, got out. Someone let the pasture open, and they went missing, and they were off in the hills somewhere. And I got really scared. I was really upset at them. Gus Gus could care less. He does his own thing. He does not care about people. He is not respectful like Riggs is because he's not mine, so he's never been trained properly. I'm just going to say that. But Riggs was terrified, and I could see them. We have a really large piece of property. It was really dark at night, and I could see their eyes, and he finally came running back to me. He came back, and I was mad. I was freezing. I was mad. I was cold. I was a little overwhelmed, but I was so excited to see him that the joy in seeing him was greater than all the other horrible things I was thinking about him in my head, right? And that's exactly how the Lord's steadfast love is. It never wavers and it never changes. Psalms 25:10 says, "All the paths of the Lord are steadfast love and faithfulness for those who keep his covenant and his testimony." There's 219 times the word steadfastness appears in the Bible, and it's followed always by the word love, nearly 200 of those times. That is the one thing we know with 100% certainty about God, that his love is steadfast, just as his faithfulness is. All of the paths of the Lord's are sure and dependable, and his paths are steadfast as he is. In 2 Thessalonians, it says, may the Lord direct your heart to the love of God and to the steadfastness of Christ. We have nothing as stable as our relationship with him. He is our solid rock on which we stand. We must build our hopes on him. Anything else that you're going to is going to be shaking and will fail. Time and time again, I wandered off and I tried to do things my own way. But the faithfulness and the steadfastness of Christ constantly called me back. And it's kept me there years later. The thing about God is his steadfastness is directly related to his providence. That means how he provides for us. This divine provision is God's providence in your life. So as we wander and go through life during all of our seasons of great loss and spiritual dryness, even just like the regular chaos, God is part of it. He has never left us. He is constantly providing, even we cannot see him. He is involved and always working on our behalf. So remember that. Every time you see a donkey, don't think of Jesus. Think of steadfast love or think of something else. But that's just what I wanted to share. Cling to the Lord. I have a verse. I know Lauren is giving me low drizzle or low drip. I want to leave you with pondering God's love and do you trust his providence. But for me, the nearness of God is my good. I have made the Lord God my refuge. That's Psalms 73:28. You're going to follow Lauren. You're going to follow Maddie out that way. Bye, guys. Thank you so much.